Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Man Talking to Himself by himself in the park, possibly while dogging. This is brought to you by Budgy Smuggler. Go to the website budgysmuggler.com, or if you're in Australia, budgysmuggler.com.au, and use the code goodareas for free shipping. That code works all across the world. budgysmuggler.com. It's nice to be at a cricket oval. And feeling something. It's nice to be outside and feeling something. You know what? It's nice to be at a park by myself, talking to myself, feeling something. Because there's so much of cricket specifically where you're not really feeling anything. You know, we have those short serotonin hits where basically the game is packaged into a highlights, 1 minute reel. It's basically House of Highlights, but for cricket. So much of cricket is like that, but it's nice to be at a cricket ground where you fucking feel something. And I'm feeling absolutely everything and nothing at the same time, because Ashes cricket, it's just a roller coaster, and today is another roller coaster of a day. It's a roller coaster of emotions, the highs, the lows, the ups and downs, other directions. And the bare facts of the case, and these are the bare facts, is that Australia needs 6 wickets and England need 257 runs to win. Now, there's been some twists, there's been some turns, there's been some ups, there's been some downs. I've already told you about the directions this game has taken, but heaps happened today, and also there were just real holding pattern kind of moments, or hours indeed. That's how long this sport goes for. But that's the bare facts of it. And Australia's in front of the game. There's no question Australia's in front. But we've all been hurt too many times by this sport. And just when you think it's going one way, then this fucking game just reels you back in, and then you're like, oh no, I hate myself now because I've revealed that I care. I've revealed that I care about the result, and there's nothing worse in cricket than revealing that you care about anything, let alone the sport. Now, it's a wonderful day here in London today because it is Pride today. I know the US had their turn of Pride maybe a couple of weeks ago, but it's London's turn to have Pride today, and there was a real juxtaposition of the tube, let me tell you, of a wide variety of demographics, obviously not coming to Lord's, but a wide demographic, celebrating Pride and the colours and the rainbows and the vibrancy, the textures. Again, the highs, not many lows just yet, maybe lows tomorrow. Southerlies, of course, is what I'm talking about. Humidity. Lost my train of thought again. And then the juxtaposing that with the dourness, not to be confused with the dowry, of Lords and the civility therein. And of course, they dictate civility at all times. So there was a real juxtaposition. People going different directions. For Pride and the Lords cricket test match. So that was something. When we started the day today, when I say we, because now I'm playing for England apparently, they just went to the bumper tactic, and it just looked like at the first sort of hour, I thought England looked like bereft of ideas, and then of course it started to work. So once again, it's a classic case of what the fuck do I know? But at the time I was thinking, geez, if England had Archer, Stone, Wood, and Leach playing, England would be a fucking really, really good team, especially at home. They'd be good in most places. They'd be good in Australia with that team. But then of course I was thinking, okay, well they're not available, and also for us, Bradman's dead. So you can't really have it all, can you? But I was just when they were doing the barrage of bouncers, I was just thinking, this looks very simple, chalk. This looks very, very easy for Australia. I think it was Smith and Khawaja just rolling the wrist on a lot of pull shots. It just looked like they were turning the strike over, left-hand, right-hand combinations. Again, more directional stuff. And then I got a crow's feet in from Connor on Patreon. He said, boys, major crow's feet at the commentators labeling deliveries and tactics as legitimate. Fucks that. And it was a very good point. Like, what constitutes a legitimate tactic? Are there any fake tactics? Are people faking tactics out? We'll talk about the catch later in the day, about STARC'S catch. But I also really enjoyed that somehow Aussies are getting really upset that England are using our tactics, like they've stolen our IP. And obviously we'll be taking them to court over that. But I'm pretty sure that this was part of the AUKUS agreement when we fucked France off for some nuclear submarines. This was part of it. You have to share ideas of how to get wickets on slow London pitches. So it was just a bumper. It was just a bumper barrage, and it worked. Australia went for 123, and they've lost 9 for 156. That's not a red hot stat, but they did lose 8 for 88 off 40 overs once the bumpers began. Once the bumpers came raining down from within and upon us and all over our faces. And it was just so then I was just thinking about tactics and the legitimacy of those tactics. And there's just been so much made about, Bazball and the aggressiveness, and then for some reason Ben Stokes decided to get pragmatic, and it was sort of the first time that we've seen pragmatism from the Ben Stokes, Brendan McCullum era. Brendan McCullum gets a lot of credit for a guy sleeping most of the game on a couch, but I suppose he's involved. But it was pragmatic and it worked, and they took 8 for 88 off 40 overs, and they've just kept Australia. The lead was England chasing 371, aren't they? So it's just within there. It's within the range, isn't it? It's within the range. We'll get to the innings later, but it was just nice to see just a bit of pragmatism, and it's actually worked. So kudos to that. But of course, those are our ideas. It's a festival of dangerous ideas, but they are our ideas. So England go fuck themselves. Khawaja was out hooking to Broad, then Head was dropped to gully by Anderson first ball, then Smith was out next ball, out hooking as well to Tongue, wasn't it? Yeah. So then I saw a tweet from Will McPherson, friend of the show, and that's important that he's a friend of the show, that now Smith has got Tongue out in every innings that he has bowled to him. So obviously they played that game for Sussex. I think Tongue plays for, is it Worcestershire? Is that right? And so now Tongue's got him out 3 times in a row, 3 or 4 times in a row, I suppose. So that feels like that could be something. Or is that just coincidence? Is that enough of a pattern for you? Is that enough of a trend for you? I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I did see a graphic of a 1 to 11 of players' names that have body parts as their last name. And I thought that is some real Interpol areas of alerting yourself to the authorities. I mean, that stuff is akin to like best players in the world born on a Wednesday, except it's so much wetter. Not for me, that stuff. Absolute crow's feet deluxe. And then after that, Broad gets Head 10 minutes before lunch with a good catch by Root under the lid. A really good catch at bat pad. I think there was about maybe 3 or 4 catches at bat pad today. Quite unusual, isn't it? And then Australia lost 3 for 10 to make it 5 for 197 for their innings, I suppose leading by 288 at the time. At lunch, the lead was 310. In that innings before Steve Smith got out, he went past Steve Waugh for Ashes runs. Only now Border and Bradman have made more runs against England for Australia. And Khawaja, who made 77 off 187, he does seem to be probably the best player of the series, if not the best player, the most valuable player on either side right now. So he's been sensational in each contribution so far. And there was a period of consolidation after lunch between Carey and Green, and then Green picks out Duckett off Robinson for 18. That looked like an ordinary shot, one of the most ordinary shots of the day, because it wasn't trying to hit into the stands, it wasn't trying to roll his wrists, but that made it 6 for 239, then the lead of 330, then a little bit more of a collapse. Robinson gets Carey at bat pad. Now, Then Cummins and Hazelwood are batting together. They're both dismissed ultimately, and Starc's at the crease. And then we're just wondering, will Nathan Lyon bat? Is Nathan Lyon going to bat? And then we see Nathan Lyon waiting in the long room. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling all sorts of things. I'm getting a welling up of emotion. Now, I'm supposed to be flying home back to Australia tomorrow, but I tell you what, I'm stopping off at Gallipoli on the way home because I felt so many things. I felt courage. I felt passion. I felt extremely hard of heart. I was about to go on a pub crawl through Clapham, Earls Court, every single walkabout that's ever been in this country. I was going to sing the national anthem. I was going to sing Waltzing Matilda. I was going to do the Matilda. I was going to be Waltzing Matilda. And also Daphne would have been involved. Absolutely no question about that. And I felt this is everything that I want to see as he hobbled to the crease and he had to hop down the stairs. And it was a standing ovation for Gary. It was a standing ovation for Nathan Lyon. And he glove punched his good friend Mitchell Starc in the middle. And I thought, I've felt things today and right in this moment that I haven't felt in a long time. I'm not really sure what that means, but I will be going to a doctor after this. Now, there was a period of time when they batted together, Starc and Lyon. They added 15 ultimately, and it's actually kind of it's a mark of respect to what Australia have seen England do in chases in fourth innings. I thought at that point because well, I mean, England have been amazing in chases. You know, can they do it against our boys, etc., etc. But it is a mark of respect that like Nathan Lyon can barely fucking walk. And he's gone out there because they feel they need as many runs as they can. Maybe even take some time out of the game. I don't think time's a factor. I don't think there's supposed to be any weather today as sun bathes the nursery end here at Lord's as I'm recording this right now. But it was heartwarming stuff. It was erection-inducing gear. I felt things that I haven't felt in decades. And also, he got off the mark with a 4. The guy could barely walk. Starc hit a 6 and a 4, I think. There was also a single, which Starc nearly cleared the ropes. Ryan Ahmed did amazingly to prevent a 6, knocked it back. They then went for a run, and Nathan Lyon forgot that he now only has one leg, and he sort of hobbled down the crease and almost got run out in the process. So that was the contribution of 15, but it was important. They got the lead to 371 before ultimately Lyon was dismissed. And then Australia start their bowling innings, and indeed England start their batting innings. That's often how the game works. And I just felt Starc had something going. I just his first over was fucking everywhere. It was he really sprayed him, but then he gets a real big strike of luck with getting Crawley down the leg side, strangling Crawley down the leg side. That, to be fair, that's very unlucky for Crawley. It was a nice bit of glove work from Carey, who continues to have a great series with the gloves. Duckett overturned an LBW off Starc. It was just missing, so no dramas with that. I think early on Duckett might have been dropped by Green at Gully with a really, really tough chance. But, Green's set such high standards recently that I'm actually really upset he didn't put in his pocket. And then Starc gets Pope middle stump with an all-time great Mitchell Starc delivery, because he's been trying this new thing called the in-swinger to right-handers, and it's just started to deck a little bit with that new ball, and fuck me, it rock and rolled, and they were in all sorts. And then all of a sudden, Pat Cummins comes into the game. He bowls so well to Joe Root, and he gets Root with an absolute snorter. Might have even hit the handle, catch to Dave Warner at slip, and then a couple of balls later, he gets Harry Brook out in a very similar way. Australians will probably remember this more than English, but in the same way that he got Joe Root out in 2019 at Old Trafford at the end of day 4, I think that might have been, where it's sort of that basically sealed that game for Australia, and then securing the Ashes in that moment, or sort of regaining the Ashes. Not regaining. What am I looking for? Continuing to hold them. There you go. There's one for the thesaurus. It was in that similar mould, but in that moment, I think England were 45 for 4. And there you go. That was all done and dusted. And then we get into a little bit more spicier stuff. So then Stokes and Duckett put on 70, nearly 80, I think, at the end of the day. And then there is what feels... It's hard to know the significance of this moment, because England still are a long way behind in the game. 257, 6 wickets in hand. It's a long tail, of course. Bairstow in next. Then after him is Broad. At the end of the day, it is Cameron Green, who's obviously had front foot, no ball problems. He bowled a short ball to Duckett, who had just gone past 50, so his second 50 in the game. And Duckett tries to dab it over first slip's head. He gets an edge and actually takes it fine to fine leg, where Mitchell Starc runs around. Maybe he runs for the best part of, I'm looking at sort of 12 to 15 metres, and takes a really smart catch and slides across the turf. And then there's sort of a pregnant pause at that moment, because obviously Cameron Green's had this problem with no balls, and we're thinking, oh no, has he done it again? Obviously he hasn't. Then the Australians celebrate, and Ben Duckett is now walking off the field, and he gets about 5 yards away from the pavilion, and then he stops, because I think the replay is gone. The replay of the catch is on the screen. So in the course of taking this catch, Starc takes a catch, and he takes it probably about, what are we looking, maybe a foot off the ground as he's falling, and he slides across the turf. And as he does so, his fingers appear under the ball, I think just from the replays that I saw. But the ball, as he catches it, he then turns his palm downward, and it's hard to tell if the fingers are fully under it, but he does slide along the ground. You can see the ball does touch the ground. Now, at this point, I'm not a fucking rule nonce, and I don't know the rules off the top of my head. I'm just watching a guy who's just caught a ball, and it's just fucking out, okay? Now, of course, in this moment, this is just all about who's going to win the internet wars, right? Who's going to do the cleverest thing about who's whinging the most, and where you were born, and what that means for you in your life, specific to this catch. That's, of course, what this is all about. I'm just looking at a cricket game where a guy hit a ball in the air, and another guy caught it, and it's just out. That's how the laws work. The guy caught it, it's out. Now, Marais Erasmus is the third umpire, and he overturns it relatively quickly, actually. Now, since then, I have engaged with the law book, obviously signifying my proclivities sexually, and the law states the act of making a catch shall start from the time when the ball first comes into contact with a fielder's person, and shall end when a fielder obtains complete control over both the ball and her own movement. Nothing there about they, thems. So far. So I suppose if you go by the letter of the law, and that's all we have in this life, that's all we have. Cricket is a game of laws and statistical nonsense. And you read that, and you go, okay, well then if you apply that to what we've just seen, then that's not out. I suppose that's what it is. Now, fundamentally, that's just fucking ridiculous because anyone who's ever lobbed a tennis ball, a set of keys, a banknote, a straw, a packet, and they've caught it, will understand that, like, sometimes you just throw something in the air and then you catch it. That you'll just understand that, and you can be an adult about that, and that's just what I saw. And I'm looking at the law, and I think Maria Rasmus has applied the law correctly. So where do we come to in my head with that? Because this is all a journey for me in my experience, because I'm just talking to no one here. That's just out. Like it's just he's just caught the ball. The ball was hit in the air, and he caught it. Now, I already know there's going to be 85 million comments being like, well, and that's how people talk in the internet in my head. It's actually a real problem for me mostly. So I understand that, but it's about how you want to engage in the conversation about what is a catch and what isn't. I know people are upset about Steve Smith taking that catch. Again, it's really about how you want to apply laws and just morality in cricket and just where that fits into your life. And if you really need to win an argument about it, then so be it. But I guess right now I'm just a man sitting in a park doing exactly the same thing. So what are you going to do? You know what? I'm just looking at it. And as I said, the ball was hit in the air. The guy caught it. That's, for me, in my life, that's good enough for me. And if it's not for you, I'm also going to live with that, But he should have fucking walked and he's a cheat. Anyway, hashtag ASKTGC, of course. This is all brought to you by Budgy Smuggler. Now, Angus McDonald wrote in on Patreon, and he said, boys, had the privilege of attending two world-famous monuments on my European holiday, Union Chapel and Westminster Palace. Union Chapel, for those catching up, is where we performed our last two London shows. In order to go into the House of Commons in Westminster to see some nonces arguing, you have to pass another nonce in a white bow tie acting as security. As I was in the middle of taking my bag and hat off, the posh proper prick in a real champing tone said to me, "Just your hat off for me there, chap. It's parliamentary house. It's a parliamentary house." I kept my bogan Aussie mouth shut, but it startled me. As we left the dribble of the House of Commons, I saw the prick watching the cricket. As I retrieved my bag and hat, he gave me a nod, and I looked him dead in the eye and whispered, 2-0, fuck off. It was day 2. I highly doubt he's a TJC listener, and this may not have been received well. However, there was no security in pursuit, and I was on my merry way. My question, as always, is, who is the alpha? Is it him simply doing his job, but with a real champing tone, or is it me telling a third-grade security guard to fuck off in a historic parliamentary house? Kindest regards, Angus. Well, I think it's fairly obvious, Angus. There are no winners there. There are absolutely no winners there from start to finish. But you've gone the early crow, and that's sort of what we're about here today. That's what we're about. Who's going to win this? It just feels like Australia might have enough, but also Australia definitely missed Nathan Lyon because this pitch would have spun. It is spinning. Travis Head might have a role to play tomorrow. He's bowling to two left-handers. He picked up 2 wickets at the end of the England's first innings. I don't know what that means. I'm just having a really good time being in London, watching a cricket match that I feel something for the first time in a long time, and that's good enough for me. But that was just fucking out, wasn't it? See you tomorrow.